Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to a very special CryptoManiacs podcast. Again, Dan, I don't know if you know this. We're rebranding this. It's never going to be called CryptoManiacs. We say this every week. It's going to be the Hive Maniacs. Dang it. That's it. We're not doing crypto. It's just Hive.
Maniacs. More specific.
More specific.
I like it.
They Call Me Dan is here again as a special guest for the podcast, and we got a good show for everyone today. So, but we got to check in on Task, make sure he's surviving his existence right now. How you doing, Task? You okay?
I'll be honest with you guys. I'm having kind of a weird experience, a Back to the Future moment, I guess you could say. I'm kind of Christopher Lloyd. I embarked on something, and a lot of this is for Leo Glossary, but Dan being an old timer on Hive like we are, John, he'll appreciate this too.
Yeah.
What I started to do, because for those who aren't aware, when Hive split from Steam, we go back to the Genesis block. So anything that was posted on the whole blockchain is under Hive. So I've been going through my old Steam posts, updating them with links for Leo Glossary, and also anywhere other than the Justin Sun fight, anywhere where it says Steam, I'm replacing that with Hive. And
That's good.
you know what I think this is real interesting, John, is when Views opens up to the Genesis block. We're all going to have that kind of Back to the Future moment walking down memory lane, because as I'm going through these posts, I mean, first thing I realized, because I started with my first post, I was a shit poster in the early days. So I've really grown. But the other thing is you start to come across people and it's like, where did they go? Oh, yeah, I remember that person. And it's just kind of a weird feeling how many people were here in our everyday lives. And, we talked to and commented on every day, and then they're gone. So Anyway, that's my dilemma. And also I set the oven glove on fire by setting it on the wrong burner.
Right. Yeah. Last week you almost burnt the house down. That was good.
No, this was like half an hour ago.
Oh, perfect.
I'm intent on setting myself on fire, I guess. 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to my dad's going to my dad's for Christmas, so maybe I'll burn his place down instead of mine. I don't know. But then he'll come.
Need you around, Task.
Want that either?
Yeah. Don't.
At least you have the hair for a fire hazard.
Yeah, I mean, at least when I stick my head in the oven, I can't set my hair on fire. I mean, if I had to do like Dan there, I'd be torched. So anyway, Dan, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And as I put out on Twitter, for people who are looking for updates on Speak Network, we're going to have Matt Starkers on next week to talk about Speak. Dan is here to talk about his project. He's been working hard, from what I understand, to get it out, and that is Ragnarok. And so this episode will focus on Ragnarok, which has a lot of people excited. And where I wanted to start with this, Dan, I was thinking about this the other day and thinking about this show. And I don't know if it was ever posted. I didn't see it. I don't know if you've ever talked about it. But where did the idea of Ragnarok come from? Where was the inspiration?
I've always wanted to make a game. For the long, never really had all the stars aligned. Where the idea for the actual game came from, it's interesting because I've been stone. I'm a poker player, and there was this show. Hell, the show might have been called Ragnarok. I don't know, but it was interesting because they had a world tournament, gods fighting, or no, it had gods fighting mortals. So it was interesting, different religions clashing. You had like North, Greek, they had people from Christianity. And I thought it was pretty fascinating how when you read like a Norse story, it's Greek, this like interchanges them all. So that sort of formed the idea. And then I'm like, okay, well, how do I make the most complicated game ever? Like, start there, make it absurdly, melt it down and roll it down and make it into something more appeasable. My friend, and we're saying, man, it'd be cool if there would, he's a poker buddy. He's like, it would be cool if there's like some kind of, And that's when I was like, you know what? Why not try to implement that into Ragnarok, because at that time the game in mind and been floating around ideas. It was born way before it actually was culminating ideas, and the poker was one of the last elements of it. And so start off on chess, which is more like a strategic moves, get to a place where you can maybe have the upper hand, and then it rolled into lands. But yeah, the original idea had come, at least for that aspect behind it, was that show. So I didn't want to have to make up stories for each character, so it made sense to poach history, abundance of content, and all these awesome characters. They're copyright free. Everyone knows, so it just made sense to corral around that instead of create.
That's good. So you've had it's been, I guess, probably about a year, maybe. I don't even remember since you first announced it, maybe a little longer. And you've had your ups and downs, judging by some of the posts and interviews I've seen, and you talking about it. So where do you stand now with the game? What is the big push towards year end? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, there's been ups and downs. Definitely bit off more than I can chew, which is always, chew slower. We plan to have a bug bounty out about 10 days. So this week is when the bug bounty will be live. Right now, anyone can see what it's about. You can test it. Working on the blockchain features and that, but really want to get the game to a place where the community is like, yeah, this makes sense. It's fun. It's not. And the feedback's been good, and we've been actively implementing it. A few bugs have already been found. I think once you put a lot more eyes on it, and then you'll get, a lot more people involved. So this week, definitely going to launch a bug bounty. And if you do want to play, you can join. If you don't have a link to the Discord, I'll make sure to give you that.
Yeah, we can include it in the post. One of the things that you talked about when this was announced, and I thought this was right up my alley, because it's so funny. I remember when the whole Twitch movement came out and people were like watching other people play games, and like for anyone that's like maybe my generation, that's really weird. That's a really weird thing. Like, let's watch other people play games. But the more I got into it, it was so cool to me. And that was actually something that I remember reading about with Ragnarok, was that you called it basically a spectator sport. This is what it was going to be. Is that still one of the focuses for this? Because, I think, like you said, it's going to be the most complicated thing you've ever created, but like the strategy behind that, to see people kind of think it out, how important is that for this game? Is the spectator side of it?
Yeah. So I want to double check my audio is still good. Yeah. Go rambling. Looks like there's a little bit of a.
Yeah, it's delaying a little bit.
All right, let me try something. I'm gonna try. All right, is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. It's definitely going to be a spectator sport, and the idea that there's a capped number of NFTs. There can only be so many players, and the idea that the decks are sort of hard to accumulate because you need a certain card for each point or for each place. Right. So there's a game in itself in just getting a deck, and you might not get your favorite deck. You just might get a deck that you can play. Like, thank God I have a deck. It might not be my favorite, but it's what it is. And then over time, you might collect cards, and you're like, when you get a card you really want, you're like, I want this card. I want to keep it. I need this card. So it's sort of there's going to be new cards that come out, but they're capped. The new cards that come out are going to be the unclaimed that recycle back into the game. So every year for so often,
the winners in the top 100 are going to be able to get new cards. There'll be quests for new cards. But for the most part, when all the cards are out, you're going to know who's what. And there's going to be people who are like, man, I need to get my hand on one of these decks because there's only so many of them. And you might not be able to get to that deck. And it might not be fair. And the game's not really meant to be fair in that aspect. It's about what decks you can get and, you know, how good you are spread out across these 3 games. And as you said, I found it funny. I was watching somebody play Fortnite was like a year ago or something, but I was just mesmerized by how good they were. I was like, this, because it just kind of came across. My friend told me about it. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to watch somebody play a video game. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I didn't really care what he was doing. He was like building walls, and like I didn't really care about that. But the fact that he was so good at building walls, and that's the same thing. Like if you get a skill game and you have the skill very high, the cap, people are going to want to watch that. They're like, man, you know, look at how the swings. Like this guy's a chess expert, but his weakness is poker. Or you know, this guy's really good at P2P card games like Hearthstone, but his chess game's weak. He might not have good skills here. He might go on tilt. It's a longer game, so there's swings. There's an element of a poker tournament type feel where you might start off strong, you might mess up, and you might go on tilt and then be overly aggressive and then punt the game. So I try to take in the aspect of what is the most demanding and intense skill-based game you can create. And I say you can go really intense for about 30 minutes to an hour. The game should not last an hour, but about 30 minutes of just hardcore intensity, really using up all your brain. The idea is not get bots, right? I'm trying to make it unbottable. I don't know if that's possible, but man, imagine a bot to bot Ragnarok. That'd be impressive. It's at least going to take a long time to create, but it'd have to be good at chess. It'd have to be at poker, Hearthstone. There's so many things it have to be good at. So many nuances and so much human element is needed that, I'm not going to call it unbottable, but that's the idea. You know, humans are playing. Humans have to play it. They can't just plug and play and let bots run the game because then what's the point? It becomes like a farm. And big yearly prizes. So when you're getting close to the year and people are jostling for spots, that's fun to watch. People really like that. It gets intense, especially, maybe year 10, maybe the game had a few popular years that made the treasury enormous. So now you have outsized, really big top 100 prizes. And it becomes a spectacle. People are like, oh, wow, this is a lot of money to win. And it's pure and there's no cheating. And it's interesting. So, yeah, definitely a spectator sport. So many people are trying to get, I want my game for everybody. We got to dumb it down. EverQuest used to be my favorite game. I remember when you died, you have to run naked to the middle of the dungeon where you died. Well, how are you going to get your body if the monster that killed you, now you're naked? You're less powerful. So it's just a very hard game, but I loved it. Now, you die, you get your corpse back instantly. It's all easy street. And that's what happens to all these games because they try to appease to the masses, where I'm going to go the opposite direction. It's like the masses aren't going to like this game. They'll get slaughtered. But there's going to be a select few that do like it. And hopefully there's enough money at stake that they're going to want to play it. And then people want to watch it. So that's sort of the idea I'm going for.
That's an odd view because every time I ran naked into town square, I ended up arrested, and I didn't enjoy that too much. But anyway, I digress.
Dude, he can't do it. He can't do a show without some type of. It's great. I love it.
That's very interesting. You're going the exact opposite direction of what, like you said, the mass game developers are. They want to create a game for everybody, and you're going the other way. And maybe you can give me a little insight into your view of this, because the idea of watching people play poker kind of is moronic to me. Yet you look at the World Series of Poker and you look at these poker tournaments they run, and they have them on ESPN or whatever they have them on. And like you said, I mean, big pools, big prize money, and these are some of the best players in the world. And obviously they get the ratings, they get the turnouts, they get people who really appreciate that, which, I mean, why is this any different than watching somebody play golf or tennis or baseball or football or anything like that? You appreciate their skill set at a level that you yourself cannot play at in most instances. Are you one who's drawn into watching poker, like the World Series of Poker? Do you find, because you're a very adept player, you've been playing it for a lot of years, you've made a living at times off of it, are you drawn into the spectacle of it, even though you're also a player?
Yeah, I used to love watching the World Series of Poker. I think anytime you have a lot of money and you have a lot of skill, people want to watch it. You have it with sports, you have it with anything nowadays, down to video games. So I think that if you can know what people want, because most people suck at video games. Most people only want to watch very few. People want to watch people play video games. People don't want to watch me play video games. They don't want to watch Taskmaster play video games. No offense. They want to watch, people who are 0.0001% and they're competing versus the most elite. And this is something they do all day, every day, and they live and they breathe it, and they know every nook and cranny. They want to see those people compete. So why not create a game that's tailored for those type of people? It reminds me of how DPoS is and versus proof of stake. It's like, there's only going to be a few nodes. So why not make it to where there's a few nodes, but make it more than a few, and it's fast and it's efficient? It's the same way here. It's like, most people are going to suck and they're going to complain and they're going to want this and that, and it's going to make a terrible game, and nobody's going to watch that. But if you just cut off all the fat and say, look, you guys get your lifeboats, get out of here, and the real people who want to ride are here. And I think if you can create something like that, which everything, like, yeah, okay, the NFL, rightfully so, health reasons, but it seems like every game I watch is getting simpler and not as aggressive, and they're holding back. And I think the world needs something that's just like a little good old kick in the ass, where it's just hardcore. They're like, well, this isn't fair. It's like, well, it's not meant to be fair. And the people who can conquer will conquer in the game, and that's just how it is. And I think people will enjoy watching that, because half the battle is getting your decks. That's why I don't think people are going to understand. I think the best players in the world some of them going to be lucky, because they're going to pull some cards and they're never going to sell them, and they're going to have some rare cards, and they're going to have the decks that other people don't have access to. This isn't oh man, this is the exact deck I want, let me go get it. It's like, no, you're not going to get the deck you want, and if you do, you're going to be very lucky. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of metagame before. Like, oh, wow, look at this. This guy, like, there's going to be a lot. Wow, look at this person got this card. There's a lot of movement, almost like sports where you see teammates move. I think trading is going to be absolutely massive, because people are going to not really necessarily, I think, if it plays out how I see it, they're not going to want money for their cards. They're going to want another card that they can't buy. And they're like, look, I have a super rare card, but I want your super rare card. And it's like, okay, that's where I think. So trading. And the biggest thing is everyone's going to be a part of it, because I'm building it in such a way, or we're building it in such a way where it's going to be encouraged to have layer 2s built on. And those layer 2s can be peer-to-peer betting or whatever it has, because I'm not going to have control of it. So the game's going to be built with like little plugins for that. That's what it's going to be for. It's like a racetrack with horses, and it's going to have seats and a ticket booth and all of that, but it's going to be run in a decentralized way where people can be a part of it. Because I think that if you take the staking approach from poker, where you can back players with money and take a percentage of their winnings, or you can just bet on the outcomes, or you can bet on individual matches. Players as they're playing, they can bet each other. That's fun, and that's awesome. And so I think that if you get all of that, it reminds me of like 1960s football, NFL football, like 1970s, like really hardcore, cutthroat, top of the top. People were betting. It was a fun sport. Wasn't watered down. That's what it's going to remind me of. It's going to be something that it's going to be no holds bar, and people should enjoy being able to watch it, because, yeah, I watch NFL. It's fun. But if I put a little bit of money on it, it's a lot funner. So I think that's sort of the environment that you could sort of expect.
You mentioned the players. You're looking at a very small group. You're looking for a very small group of elite players. You mentioned the betting and the spectators. Are there also going to be, I'll throw out a term, maybe it's the wrong term, investment opportunities?
I mean, yeah, they're going to be able to rent the cards. I mean, we're going to take everything that's worked, that we've learned in these recent markets. Smith Lens has proven that rental is a very big thing. The issue there is you have a capped number, so you're going to have whales buying up cards, and they're going to rent them out. And I absolutely love it. I'm the person that doesn't mind the tigers in the jungle. I find them fascinating. I don't try to live in a world where they don't exist. So it's like, yeah, that's going to happen. Too bad. Rent cards from the whales then. You know, you might not be able to buy the card that you want. This isn't the game for you if you're expecting to like get everything you want and be easy. So yeah, there's going to be the rental aspect. You can stake players. So back a player and get X percentage of their winnings, things like that. Thinking of ideas, because EXP coin, I think, is going to be, or EXP tokens, I think, are going to be, I'm not gonna, you know, I can't, who the hell cares? They're fucking fairy dust. Who knows if they're gonna be valuable? That's not what I'm saying. But it's like, if you love the game, then having EXP tokens is gonna make your characters better, and the only way to get them is to grind the game. So time is always valuable to other people, and if people like the game, then they have a token that can make their time quicker. So whatever that equates to, I think it's going to be the most valuable asset in the ecosystem. The cards are the cards, but they're hollow shells without EXP tokens. You can't power them up. You can have a shitty common, but if he's a couple levels higher than your rare, you're going to have a tough time. You might even lose. So EXP tokens are going to be what are very valuable, and they're going to be hard and scarce. And people are like, what the hell? I have, you know, I've been having level 1s on my deck for a month now, and I've only been able to power up 4 or 5 cards. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a scarcity, abundance in the end, but it's going to be, you know, kind of like you're dropped off into the middle of the jungle without any supplies. So you just got to do what you got to do and make it work with what you got. So that's why I hopefully think it's going to be real fun on reveal day when you get to actually get your NFTs and see what you got. I think that's going to be a real exciting time. And I hope people who are really interested in Ragnarok are doing their homework and kind of game planning the type of cards they want, what kind of decks they want, what kind of, you know, they want a DPS team, damage per second. It means an offensive. Do you want a defensive? You know, what's your game style? Are you chess heavy? Are you poker heavy? Because if this was me, man, I remember I played poker when I first got into it. You couldn't get me off of researching. I was all on it all day, every day. I watched every episode of WSOP. I watched every interview, everything you could possibly, same thing I do with crypto. You know, if I had that same need and desire at the same time as I did when I had poker and crypto for the first time for Ragnarok, let's say, you know, maybe I needed, I wanted another hustle, or, you know, I was interested in this, you know, it's a good opportunity. Not many people know about it. It's a good time to know the game and get your decks in order before it happens.
Where do you, that brings up some, where do you find these players? Where do you anticipate finding these players? Obviously, you're looking at tapping into the Hive community. You're tied to Hive, as we all know. But, you know, is this a game where there's enough players on Hive to make it at the level that you foresee? Or do you already have target markets where you can drop marketing, you can drop tidbits in the future once you go fully live, where you know the type of people you're looking for?
Yeah. Well, first point is there's not going to be any formal marketing on my point. I will fund marketing approaches. Maybe you want to target Norse people or Hearthstone people or poker people or chess people, right? You can advertise everybody here. So, you know, I've worked with a poker room before, right? And they were just asking me for advice. And as a poker player, I was telling them, well, you know what? If you put up a prize pool, instead of going and spending 10 grand on marketing, maybe you put 10 grand into a guaranteed prize pool. So that means if only one person shows up, he gets 10 grand. 2 people show up, they're battling it out. You know, the point is that there's not many people, they win a lot of money. The funny thing about poker players is they'll go to Mars before Elon does if they find an edge. So they will sniff out any old poker room, especially because we said a $10,000 WSOP ticket. So you win a WSOP ticket, it was a free roll. All you had to do is come in and sign up, and I think you deposit a little bit of money, not 10,000, but like a couple $100 or whatever. And this was a dead site, nobody on it, right? And they're like, well, where are we going to advertise? I was like, you don't need to advertise. You know, just tell a few poker players. That's it. And it was overdrawn. There was more than enough people to fund it, because what happens is people FOMO in, like, oh man, nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about this. And then at the end, so many people hear about it. And at the very tail end of that late registration, you get a bunch of people and they spoil it for everyone. And now it's not, you know, now it's overfilled, not underfilled. So you're not getting a good deal. You're just getting a normal deal. So it's the same thing with this, right? if there's only 2 players and top 100 pay out every year, well, guess what those 2 players are going to get? They're going to get a lopsided amount of rewards. So the idea is if it starts off small and there's not enough people, it's not going to last long because people are going to sniff out a good deal. And they're like, oh, wow, man, cards are super cheap. Look at, this is paying out from an HBD interest. So you're getting like real world value, whatever it's going to be. And there's not that many people. I don't know chess or poker, but I'll throw my hat in the ring because there's only top 100. And if there's only 99 players, I'm automatically in the top 100. So by default, you're going to have people exploit that. So that's going to be the marketing in itself as this thing grows. Now the idea is how to, just in a smart way, grow that treasury, that HBD treasury. That's going to be the marketing in itself. So everything has been free. Nothing has been recycled. Of course, there's going to be in-game items. You're going to need to pay a fee to enter the tournament, sort of like a poker tournament. All that goes into the treasury, right? But obviously, we've been working with the community task. You've come up with a few ideas of how to just give an initial burst of funds into that treasury. So now you do have something. You already have something. It's like, well, if you're not top 100, if this thing's paying out top 100 and there's not 100 players, then people are either stupid or this thing is just lazy because it's free money at that point. If you look at it that way, because you're not competing. It's just if there's 100 people pay out and you're top 90, you win. You don't even have to compete. You just have to put in your thing and then you get your money back plus some. That's how a poker tournament works. It's the same thing. So, yeah, I think it's going to have a natural attraction, just kind of like Bitcoin mining. If it gets too damn cheap and it gets too damn profitable to mine, people are like, oh, hey, become a Bitcoin miner. Didn't think I would, but it's too damn profitable.
Yeah, I find from the second I heard you announce that, I found the HBD pool, savings pool at this point, maybe turning into something else in the future, to be one of the most intriguing aspects as it ties to Hive, because it's like you said, you sell these in-game assets, you get these entry fees for these different tournaments, and there's different ways that money is raised. And it's the old adage where you never touch the principal, you always live off the interest. And so you have a situation where you're not necessarily, locking it up per se, unless that, exists on Hive. But basically it's whatever HBD goes in terms of the sales and the entry fees and all that other stuff, it never comes out because you want a steady flow of the interest because that's your reward pool, that's your prize pool. And to me, that is an aspect. I mean, you latched onto it immediately. I don't see why every game out there that's remotely tied to Hive doesn't realize this and say, you know what, we can tap into this. This is 20% interest, which of course, if you're looking, I like what you said, 10 years down the road, that shows this money's never coming out. So if there's 10 million HBD locked up paying 20% 10 years from now, if everything's still the same, that's $2 million in prize pool. Fine, it's $2 million in prize pool.
Yeah, exactly. The prize pool theoretically will get bigger every single year, because no matter what principal is taken in, it's never taken out. And in order to enter a tournament, you have to pay the fee. So even if one person enters, no one else does, they're adding to the prize pool, the treasury, and thus getting paid more. So as a player, I think that's huge. Like, I don't know. There's so many. I've never liked in sports where it's like live contract to contract and this and that. I know sports is a little different because of the body and the injuries. But when it comes to gaming, I don't know, man. I really like getting good at something and being able to play that for a long period of time and not having to start over. I don't know if gamers are still like that, but that's how I am. I like building a reputation and getting good at something and battling it out every year. So I love Madden. Madden's become something that it's not as fun as it used to be. But, I used to be a top 3 Madden player 3 years in a row back in, I don't know, 10 years ago, whenever I was playing Madden. So I've, been competitive sports. I remember, won $10,000 in a poker Madden tournament when I was in almost high school, middle school. So I've been doing this, playing not professional, but just playing competitive sports. Gamer Saloon. I was one of the first guys on that site. So yeah, I think that we just need to get our edge back, and I think something like Ragnarok is where I'm going, and knowing as a player that in 10 years and next year the prize is going to be bigger, and then next year the prize is going to be even bigger and bigger and bigger, and knowing that's never going to be taken from me. I don't know, it gives you a home feeling, and I hope people really snuggle into their decks, get their game plans going. And the good thing about Ragnarok is I love poker because you never know what game is going to lead you to. You can win $1 million in this tournament, or you can bust on the bubble, or you can bust within a minute, or you can get top 3, or you can lose. You never know what's going to happen. So I love that about Ragnarok because it's the same thing. And that's the essence I'm trying to capture. Every game is new. You can't just rest on your laurels. You have to go. I can't just play poker and say, "Oh, I'm just gonna go through the motions today." I can, but I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. And if there's some really good players who are focusing, they're going to eat me. So I like that. I don't like passive, competitive gaming or sports in general. So I think that I think hopefully with the combination of 3, if we can get them synergized to where it makes sense and it's not. I don't want it to seem like a ball with an arm on it. It's like, just cut off the arm. What are you doing? It doesn't roll well. I don't want like one of the games just being annoying. So if we can make that round and smooth and actually roll and have momentum, I think there's something here, just from a pure gaming standpoint.
You mentioned something here, and it's kind of something I've always thought would be really cool with like the video games and spectator sports. You said that there's going to be like a player staking involved in this. Do you see a world, and this kind of goes into gambling and stuff like that, do you see a world where fantasy sports comes to blockchain based games like this, like where you can actually put in on certain players or lineups and kind of compete with other players to see who wins on a fantasy level?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have that there. I can see like people throwing shit against the wall, seeing what sticks in that area, and I'm seeing something sort of form, but nothing what you're quite talking about. That's absolutely the future. The future of sports is gaming. I don't know if people realize that. The NFL is probably not going to be around in the way we know in 20 years. People aren't signing up like they used to. They're getting injured. They're making more playing a video game online. Like, what would you rather do? Go bang your head, and do what they have to do, or go play Fortnite? How much did Ninja make? Ninja care?
Oh yeah.
The millions, maybe. I don't know, but a lot of money. At least at least eight figures plus. So that's the future. And if you notice the trend, I'm not somebody who's like, it should be this way. I observe and I say interesting. And what I think is interesting is the children nowadays are watching gaming more than watching NBA, more than they're watching NFL, more than they're watching soccer. And I know the World Cup just happened, especially here in Mexico. But if you notice the trend, they're not, Dad, let's watch the NFL. Dad, let's watch NBA. No, they're watching Fortnite or whatever the popular game is nowadays. And that trend's only going to hyper escalate because we live in a digital world and the kids are constantly on their phones. You're not going to stop them. Like, I have kids and, we can't always have them on the phone. It's like, he's going to live inside a phone by the time we die. Like, we're just going to be phones. That's all we're going to be in the future. It's like, it's like we have to make sure his apps are smart and he's not looking at dumb things that are, melting his brain. But like, we live on a river. We have to admit that, and we might as well go with the flow instead of against it. Go anywhere if you try to go against it. So, yeah, I just think that I forgot. When I start talking about my kids, I forget what point I was making.
Well, I think you are onto something there because you think about Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA.
Oh yeah.
These guys, I mean, there's 750, 1,000 people who play this a year. I mean, these are the top of the top of the top when you consider everybody who played, Pop Warner football and then, high school, then college. And, you're getting into such a small amount of people. And really, you can't get many competitive leagues because it just doesn't seem to work. I know they're trying it in golf right now with the Saudis. But what you're talking about with gaming, like you said, okay, maybe a kid's not going to go into Fortnite because Fortnite's already very competitive. There's a lot of people into it. But all of a sudden, that kid comes across this Ragnarok and says, oh, here's this new game. and the prize pool isn't there yet. But if I spend 5 years getting adept at this, all of a sudden 5 years from now, I could be making millions of dollars. And then somebody else is going in another direction and playing like something similar to Candy Crunch and making, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's really where, when you talk about the digital world, I always say, from the difference between atoms and bits go a lot faster and a lot farther and can penetrate a lot deeper into society. So it makes sense that if I want to be a player, am I going to go and try to become one of the top 30 quarterbacks in the world so I can play in the NFL? Or am I going to go find a game that has the potential to make me hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars, simply because somebody threw it out there and said, hey, come join us?
Yeah, there's a massive opportunity right now. I think so. There's, as we can say, and I'm giving a lot of, I guess I'm giving a lot of kudos where I shouldn't. There's very few censorship-resistant blockchains. I could say there's Hive, but there's very few. And of that, there's very few people who are building on them. And everything that I'm talking about, if you want it to work in the way that we're talking about, has to be built on a censorship-resistant platform. So in theory, there should be a lot of competing play-to-earn games. But I think in practice, there's going to be almost a winner-take-all opportunity in terms of, if you build a game on a layer 2 that's decentralized, the game itself is decentralized, you make the NFTs distributed, they're on top of Hive, which is decentralized. Now you build a bunch of different games that you plug these NFTs into. Everyone else is playing grab ass, whatever the hell they're doing with their centralized blockchains. If this reaches a critical point where there is enough in the treasury and there's enough different, look at these games as skins on top of these NFTs that you can just opt in to play. They're all fighting for your deck, offering different rewards, like different poker tournaments, different poker rooms. Oh, look at the prize pool here. Prize pool is really big here. Oh, there's not that many people in this one. Making the NFTs more and more sought after, synergizing it into the main game where you're earning EXP token and all that. So you're synergizing. You're not fracturing it. If you can build that in a way, and I don't want to say altruistic, I'm saying in a way that's going to work. I'm not here to be altruistic. I'm not here, oh, Dan's so nice, he didn't sell the NFTs and make millions of dollars. It's like, yeah, could have done that. Humbly, let's say, oh, maybe I made $100,000 or whatever. Still a lot of money. I'm out of pocket a lot more. I'm not making money off this. So the idea here is, well, I'm interested in making something that's going to work in 10 years. And if I'm early on this, it's why I dislike founders that keep pre-mines and are greedy. It's like, dude, you're already there. You're already early. Just buy your own token or earn your own token early. Like, how greedy do you have to be? You're literally there before it launches. You know when it launches. You can just play fairly. And it's not even fair because you know everything. Like it's just, I never understood greedy founders. So if anything, I'm going to give away most of my duo tokens. I want to play this on hard mode. This is a game to me. I'm not building this as a business. I'm building this so I can play and compete versus you all. I don't want all the duo tokens. I want to start off with my rusty shield and my rusty sword, just like everyone else. And I want to play the game and have fun and see if it actually works. Because the truth is, I have a deep desire to play games. But there's no games out there that can keep my attention. I've played every game you can think of. You can name it, and I've played. MMOs. I like MMOs. And competitive peer-to-peer games like Madden and poker and all that. So this is the essence of the poker side. There's going to be an MMO I've already talked about. Grandiose. Don't ask me every month when that's going to happen. It's way off in the future, but it's being worked on. There's a world that's been built. There are monsters we have that could be in this world, and we're starting off. And once this thing's built, we're going to start to focus on that. But obviously, it's something that could easily work in parallel. And this is just what I want to show people. These NFTs are keys. They're keys to unlock various different games. The game should not own your character. The site should not own your account. Right? It's the same concept. The games should be treated no different. If anything, people put more time and more effort into their gaming accounts. I know people that spend hundreds and hundreds of just crazy hours. They don't own those assets. And they can't carry them over. And they can't vote on future expansions. And they have no say in anything that happens. Like, World of Warcraft is so stupid. You beat it, you get all this awesome gear, and then they come out with expansion. It's like, oh, well, all that awesome crap you just did is worthless. Now you got to do everything again and get this new gear. And you're like, that's not cool. It's like, I have time that I want it to be valuable. I want my time to always be valuable. I don't want to have to keep starting over. Maybe people like that. There's a certain degree out there, but I'm not catering to those people. This is more of a, man, 10 years from now, I'm going to have a crazy reputation, a lot of deck, a lot of EXP tokens, powered up decks, all these things. I think that should be or at least that's the goal. That's how I want to feel. If I don't feel that way, then it's failed. Like, because I think that's what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to build a game that I can actually enjoy and beat people at over and over again.
You touched upon something, and I think it's worthy to explain it, because I read a lot of posts about, not a lot, but some posts about games or entities building on Hive. But then I read the post and it's like, I don't see how you're doing this. You kind of went into and touched upon it a little bit. You mentioned the layer 2, which obviously we know you're involved with building out or incorporating, I should say, a decentralized node system. So when you say Ragnarok is on Hive, what's the infrastructure? What's the connection? How do you tie it in? Are you going to be using custom JSONs that are posted on Hive for battle results? I mean, obviously your NFTs are going to have to be layer 2 because that's going to be tied to smart contracts. I would presume you're using the Hive account management system. Maybe I'm being presumptuous there, but I would think that makes sense. So when you say we're building this on Hive, how does it connect in?
Yeah, you pretty much said it all. Log in with your Hive account, store the historical data on chain. Layer 2 honeycomb smart contracts, which is layer 2 Hive. We are fiddling around with the idea. So there's either two ways to do this. Everyone runs infrastructure that's a gamer, right? You download the game. People are used to downloading 60 gig files, right? That's sort of a neat way to, I don't want to say Trojan horse because people think virus, but like get people to run a node, right? It's like because the hardest part of running a node is downloading it. People don't want to download and run it. But like if it's a game, you're already doing that. Your computer is a node. You just have to have the right software and connect it online. And of course, you're going to be online the whole time you're battling because you have to be. And then, of course, the engineers are saying, well, you know, you got people with shitty connections versus someone with a fast connection. They're going to have a bad experience. It's like, okay. So now we're thinking of a way where maybe there's a DPoS system where you have each one run a game server. So instead of running AWS, you have a DPoS system elected. Each one are running a game server. And those are the people that run your critical infrastructure. And that is just for Ragnarok. That's what people don't understand. Dan Larimer was right and he was wrong. When he was right was when he said there's going to be thousands of blockchains. He was wrong. They're not going to be layer 1s. They're going to be layer 2s. And they're going to be smart contract only. And then critical infrastructure only. So this is something that lives outside. It's using the Speak Network technology, right? What is being built with Speak Network is going to be recycled and used for Ragnarok. Because the proof of access system and the DPoS system and being able to vote and elect critical infrastructure, all that's going to be needed. So we're probably going to have both versions, give people all options they possibly can. People who have fast connections, maybe they just go ahead and do peer-to-peer to take some load off of the elected ones. But I mean, it's funky, but I love DPoS, man. How do you solve the problem? You elect people in to run the infrastructure. You know, you don't solve the problem by going to AWS. And I'm sure as hell not going to be running Ragnarok on my own. So you can't count on that. We need to get this in a decentralized way. If I was to fuck off, then it's all good, right? No, doesn't matter. Ragnarok shoots on. So that's the goal. So yeah, peer-to-peer is definitely doable. Might not be the best experience. Crazy novel idea. Go ahead and have DPoS system for critical infrastructure. I don't like having multiple DPoS. So you guys know why. Just quickly explain. The more you ask people to vote, the less they vote. So, you know, I don't, if that's why I think DPoS is excellent. Layer 1, terrible layer 2. Great layer 2, greatly diminishing returns. So once you get 3, 4, 5, it gets to be terrible. Where proof of stake is awesome. You can have 1,000 of them. It doesn't matter. It's plug and play. Stake and vote for yourself. Easy. So yeah, it might have to be a DPoS system. Is what it is. But, you know, we're going to incentivize it, gamify it, and make sure we get enough voter participation for the server. But yeah, 100% decentralized. I hate that. It's going to be censorship resistant. So that's what we're looking for.
I think something you said was, and this is going back one of the previous times you came on the show, and it's a quote I'll always remember. You and Starkers were talking about how everything starts centralized. The first Bitcoin mined was Nakamoto, and it's what you do after. And you just kind of laid it out where, I hate 100% decentralized, because it's just you can't do it. It's what you do after that matters. And kind of what you guys have done, with the Speak Network and everything you guys are planning. That's what you do with it after that counts. And something like Ragnarok, I think, is, if you disappear, the game still goes on, because that's what happens after you build this thing. And instead of it all being centralized and Dan pisses off and then it's gone, now you have that censorship resistance like you're talking about. So it's powerful stuff.
There's two paths, and if you take the wrong one from the beginning, it's almost impossible. Well, it hasn't been proven yet that you can recover from it, and that is, hoard a pre-mine and take control of it. So, if you could do it the Bitcoin way, sort of like Satoshi did, started out centralized. You can say Hive started out centralized in the form of Steam. Hive in itself was sort of a unicorn. It was the where do you get the chicken for the egg? Well, Hive just produced a chicken that should have golden egg out of the universe. It was magic because the community forked it. So there wasn't, one leader saying, we fork Hive and this is who's going to come with us. It was sort of like the house was on fire and someone, Netsuetsu, I believe, busted a door open, and everyone kind of looked at each other, and then we all kind of scrambled for the exit. Some of us got burned, but most of us got out good, unscathed, so that was fine. But yeah, it's true. You most of these products is kind of like when they're holding that ring in Lord of the Rings, they just want to keep it. It's like, I have this power over all this money, all this respect, because that's the thing. It hits you on all of them, man. I think someone like a Charles Hopkins. I don't like calling out people, but who cares? Yeah, I think he's sort of got like a big ego. He sort of likes a cult following. And you got the people like ZZ. They love the money. Like, there's just so many reasons to not give up the power, because it hits you on all angles. You almost have to be a perfect human being to pass it up. So that's why it's tough. That's why there's only, you can say Hive and maybe a few others, but it's very difficult. And if there was one person in charge of Hive, it would have been screwed anyway. So, it took an alien invasion to create Hive. I don't think it was something that was a default or something that you could just plan for. You can't just plan an attack, like false flag your chain or something. You can't do that. So who knows if there'll be another community fork like Hive where there's actually enough support. I call it the ringing of the towel. That's what Justin Sun did. He was like, oh, wait, there's still some community left on Steam. Let me get them all over the Hive. Wait, there's a few more. There. And he rang literally almost everyone except the people who were just completely there for money and nothing else and didn't care about anything else. Those are the people obviously voted for Justin. And now they're probably regretful for that decision.
Well, I agree with you. I think we kind of backed into this, and it was a lot of luck. I mean, we didn't plan this, and it could have been where Netsuoso or I don't know how much Block Trades was actually involved in the coding of the original, the forking away. But, they could have said, okay, we'll give ourselves this stake for putting together the software, the Steemit Inc. stake, and then we would have been in the same position, different dictator, but maybe a benevolent dictator, maybe not, but a dictator nonetheless. And so the fact is, we took that threat to the blockchain. It actually wasn't even a threat. It was used against us, so it was beyond a threat. But we took that threat for Hive and removed it and said, okay, now it's no longer a threat. It's actually a benefit to the blockchain. And so then when you start to talk and when we interact and people like you, I write about it, John and I talk about it. It's like, and okay, maybe you don't like the word decentralization because it has been beaten to a pulp, just like Web3. But a lot of us have this mindset of censorship resistant, distributed, decentralized, whatever terms you want to use, Web3. We have this mindset of continually pushing stuff out. So we don't have those points of vulnerability. We have that resiliency. And then what you just said about Ragnarok, it really intrigued me because you're talking about the NFTs. And it's like, okay, how's this for resiliency? Your NFT isn't only applicable to Ragnarok. Maybe over the next 5 years, there's 6 more games that appear where your NFTs will be useful in. And then, like you said, the competition gets going, the reward pools get going, and saying, okay, I'm not going to play Ragnarok because the reward pool this year is only $5 million, and the reward pool over here is $3 million, but there's only 25 people playing it. So I'm going to run over here and play that one. That to me is just the epitome of what you guys on CTT talk about. This is what we talk about on CryptoManiacs. This is what the essence of Hive is and where it stands out, because like you said, we'll use Hutchinson. He doesn't have this mindset. He doesn't have this mindset whatsoever. And I don't think anybody who's building on his system there is coming with this mindset.
Yeah, so I think there's a winner-take-all opportunity here, because I think by the time people get it, you can't say, all right, I'm going to create Hive. Right? You have to be working towards it, and you're probably going to fail a bunch of times, and then there has to be a little bit of serendipity and luck. People just don't appreciate that, and they're playing with the opportunity. So I think the people who are building on censorship-resistant chains right now, and they are building layer 2, because it's not just enough to build it on the first layer. Sure, it protects your account, protects your money, but your smart contracts. So that was the whole point of no pre-mine, no nothing. I dropped it to the most distributed network known to man that I know of, that can get there fairly. You see who gets it. It's all on chain. A lot of the people, know their history, know their stories, all these things. So, that was a no-brainer. Now you have a layer 2 that comes to life, right? What happened with Speed Network, right? People got drop tokens, and then we got 60, 70 node operators. That's more than most top 100 blockchains have, right? And we did no advertising, nothing like that. So it's the same concept here. Who's going to run critical infrastructure for Ragnarok? Well, I think when people see a game up and they see, oh, I can actually contribute, I think we're going to see some contribution. I don't have to go looking for these people. They're already here. And since there's 2 types of people on Hive, there's going to be gamers and investors. People are like, oh, I like Splinterlands, and I was one of the first purchasers of Splinterlands, and I had bought every every pre-alpha card, whatever it is. Every single card, I think, pretty much I could buy, and I powered them all up. And the reason I did that was because I wanted Splinterlands to do good. I wanted there to be a lot of liquidity, and so I did everything I could. And I played a little bit. I think I probably played maybe 50 games. Right? I never really got too into it. It was fun, but it wasn't my cup of tea. That wasn't why I bought the cards. And then I just left the cards. I didn't rent them out. I just forgot. I just left them there for a while. And then one day I was like, Splinterlands is viral. They're doing great. Let me just unload my cards. I did it slowly, not to hurt the market. Wasn't looking for money. That wasn't it. Of course, I did it right before it boomed. But again, I'm happy. I'm not mad. I was like, great. Splinterlands is bringing, because, I could have made a lot on the Splinterlands, but it's a piss holding to what I have on Hive. So so it's really great to see that, and I hope people see the same thing with Ragnarok. They're like, oh, maybe I'll support the game in some way, or I might play around. I might, I'm not really a gamer. Like, I wasn't really a gamer in Splinterlands, but since it was on Hive, I played it. Splinterlands was on ETH, I wouldn't have played it. I've watched how Axes worked on YouTube. I've never played it, just to get an idea, right? Just to see how these games work. But I'm not that type of gamer. So I hope you have the same thing, and that's what really a game needs. It needs a little bit of lifeblood. So it's just a spark, man. Who knows if this is going to work? Right? All the ingredients will be there. There should be a nice little prize pool to get us started. Everyone has decks on Hive. It should be pretty cheap to get them at first, right? If that's what you want to do, and we should have enough players to make it interesting, right? A poker game, you need more than one player. So if we can get a table full, that's when things happen. That's when other people might come, and then there's a snowball effect. So yeah, I love the anxious, the before the moment, the not knowing, because once the ball's moving and you have that confidence, you don't have the same feeling. So will this work? That's always an interesting question. It's fascinating to me, and I'm really, really pushing all, and we'll see what happens.
I find it most interesting, especially in cryptocurrency, because we know how tribal everything is. And you know, maybe at the end of the day, the three of us are tribal too, because we have a rather high opinion of Hive. But the three of us have some significant Hive power. But what I love about this is whether I have interest in Ragnarok or not. If I have high power, even if I have 50 or 100 high power, I have a vested interest in the success of Ragnarok. I have a vested interest in the success of Views. I have a vested interest in the success of Splinterland and anything else that has taken place. I have a vested interest in the cooking community on Hive, even though, you know, my idea of cooking is a frozen pizza in the oven. You know, everything that's on here, it all filters to the same pot. And, you know, that's where I always looked at it as a cooperative, as like a housing cooperative. You know, if we all live in the same community, if Dan all of a sudden cleans up his yard and fixes the eave and does the things and paints his front porch, that improves the whole community. All of us benefit. And, you know, this is a point I think we need to drive home with everybody is, you know, how can we support each other? Because it's like what Leo Finance is doing, what CTP is doing, what Speak Network's doing, what Ragnarok's doing, what Splinterlands is doing. It all feeds into the same trough. And yes, there's people out there who have, well, I don't have much of a Splinterland stake, but there's people out there I'm sure are going to be multi-millionaires off Splinterlands. I'm not going to make that because I don't have anything in Splinterlands per se. But the more success Splinterlands has, at least there's some indirect impact, if not a direct impact, on Hive. And it's the same thing with Ragnarok. Well, you did an airdrop, so everybody based upon their Hive power has some type of holding in Ragnarok. Yep. So you already have that vested interest if having high power isn't enough of a vested interest. And it's like, who knows where this could go? Like you were saying, I mean, maybe what you airdropped to me, I mean, that may make me a millionaire at some point if this game takes off 10 years down the road. All of a sudden, I might get a lucky card or two, and it's like, whoa, this is a rarity. You just don't know. And this is something that I don't see anywhere else because, like you guys talk about on Twitter and stuff like that, what are other communities talking about? They're on Twitter, they're on social media, Web 2.0 social media, trying to pump the price of their token. That's not a community. That's a bunch of people trying to pump the price of the token. You know, how many people are actually, I mean, we had that little, making a little bit of fun of Starkers last night, but, you know, he's going back and forth on Twitter about downvotes. And, you know, that's an actual discussion about what's taking place. They're not talking price. They're not talking any of that shit. You don't see that on Ethereum. How many people who are interested in Ethereum actually talk about the system of POS and coin voting? Yes, Vitalik talks about it, but how much of the community? Nobody. But we go on Hive and people write an article. Dan will put up a video about some of the things he observes, and then all of a sudden other people start talking about it. That's community. That's a home. Whereas this other stuff, it's just like, okay, well, I got Ethereum. I want to see it at $10,000 a piece.
Yeah, they got a. They went from talking about censorship resistance to saying, well, you can still get a censorship resistant text in. You just have to wait 10, 20 minutes and pay 10x the fee. So that's okay. So, you know, maybe in a couple of years we'll say, you know, if you give your right arm and you do a blood sacrifice, you can wait 3 days and get your uncensored transaction through Ethereum.
And you got to get Jamie Dimon's permission because he's probably going to be running the damn thing by then.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're far ahead. So Ragnarok, I look at it as, I see this as a really great opportunity. I don't know. I feel like the goal is wide open. I want to build a layer 2 community with a base of NFTs. I did not create the story of the NFTs. It's kind of like IPFS, like Norse, Greek, like these are characters, and I'm just bringing them back to life. They have fans of all ages from all around the world. So if you were going to build the base foundation for a game, right, that would be the start. And then from there, you can build any type of game with these NFTs, any type of, you know, they can just be individual characters. They don't have to be a whole deck. When you start thinking in that way, and it's being built in that way to have many, many different skins, almost like a Hive in itself, of a base layer of NFT accounts with smart contracts that you tie to layer more communities, more skins, and you can just plug and play. So that's the idea. So I hope people, really can understand how far this thing can really go, and understand that's much more than just the game that's released right now. This is just the first initial skin on top of the NFT decks that you're getting. And from there, it can be anything. But those NFTs are going to carry the points, carry your reputation. You might have to start over in another game in terms of your powers, but people know who you are. And it goes to an overall arching, earning the same token, earning XP token here, there, etc. So it kind of synergizes everything.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've never heard you phrase it like that. So you're not really built. I mean, you are building Ragnarok, but Ragnarok's not your focus. Ragnarok's kind of the on top of your focus is this NFT layer that you're building on layer 2. That is going to Ragnarok will be one. There might be 3 dozen other games or other applications that end up built on top of this or tied into this. But it's really what you're focusing on is the NFT layer that is decentralized, and that's where, and it's capped, it's scarcity. It's using the Bitcoin model, but using it at a layer 2, not at a layer 1 where you need the inflation. So now you're building an asset base that others can incorporate into whatever they want to build.
Yeah, exactly. The game is funded by its in-game purchases. It doesn't need to run on inflation. You can cap the NFTs. That's very important if you want it to be a spectator sport and people know what is what and it's in stone. It's not going to change on them like the game of football. The rules aren't just going to, they might, but the fundamental rules, right? You can't have 10 linemen. It's like there's certain things that you can't do that you can build a parameter and a foundation around, and then you can actually build a game theory around. Like, game theory takes a long time to develop, and if you change too much, it's impossible to build. So, yeah, I think that people are going to want an NFT account that acts like Hive, but they want to be able, because Hive is here. You interact with the layer 2 Ragnarok, your NFTs are here. And then from there, you can, because see, with Hive, you can access Peak D. You can access all these other things. Well, with just Hive, you can't get Ragnarok. You have to go from Hive, then to your Ragnarok NFTs. From your Ragnarok NFTs, you can go into a different level of skins, more sophisticated skins, things that you can't just build with just a simple Hive account. And I say a simple Hive account, it's complex, but it's simple in that it doesn't have smart contracts, which is good. It shouldn't have smart contracts on the base layer. So the idea is to make a fancy smart contract, and maybe you have a Thor NFT as your NFT, your little picture, and that's your identity, and that's your card that you really like, and that's the one that you level up, and maybe you don't even play Ragnarok. But yeah, you're right. Ragnarok, the game, is just the first. It's just the first skin. It's the first Hive blog on your account. So all these things you can look at them as accounts on the layer 2 that give you access.
So like Ragnarok might be like Hive.blog, and then the next one is like a Peak D if somebody builds it, and it's all tied into that NFT level.
Yeah, and anyone can build on top of it, and there's going to be a DAO, and there's going to be proposals. Maybe somebody builds a skin and they want to allocate some of the inflation, or maybe some of the treasury, or some of the, each game's prize pool is going to be dedicated, but there's going to be an underlining EXP token. And that's the whole idea here, is to have a synergistic token, a way to earn, and maybe you have branded EXP tokens where you can earn them, and then for a small fee, you can cut it, and then power it up in another game, right? Kind of like take a discount, and that way EXP token becomes deflationary. But also all this work you did in this game, you can carry over to other games. So now it's like every game you play is one game, and you're leveling up one character. And maybe you're doing it in a fighting game, maybe you're doing a sports game, maybe you're doing an MMO, maybe you're doing a card game. But at the end of the day, when you wake up the next day, your character is going to be more powerful in whatever game you choose to play. How is that not a better model? I'm a gamer. I love games. I've been playing them since I was that's all I did. Mario and Nintendo 64. I was an avid gamer. So that's the approach here. I'm approaching it as a crazy hardcore gamer that loves hardcore longevity, stability, reputation. And if you talk to any good gamer, I don't say good gamer, but old school gamer, that's the traits they're looking for. The EverQuest players, the early WoW Classic guys. I think that bringing that sort of atmosphere into the modern era where you have play to earn and combining them in a very good way where no one owns it. I think a lot of gamers are going to jive with that. They're going to have a sense, I own this deck. I'm not going to be censored. The prize pool is not going to be taken away. I can build games on top of my deck without, So, yeah, I think the possibilities there are endless. And it's going to be creative. There's going to be no walls. It's going to be all open, just like a hive, where you're encouraged to build and fork and do whatever the heck you want with it.
And everybody who plays at least in Ragnarok, needs a Hive account.
Yeah, the Hive account is going to be the scorekeeper, and it's going to hold the historical data. Anything text-based that needs to be stored. All the smart contracts will be on the Honeycomb system. And then, of course, the heavy server side, it's either going to be peer-to-peer, DPoS, or both. Probably going to be both.
So effectively, just trying to envision this going down the road a couple years, and even with moderate success in the game, because like you said, there could be a tie-in with gambling and betting and all kinds of stuff, and people going and buying some of these tokens and then staking them to get part of the rewards from the top players or the mediocre players or whatever. This could add value. I mean, we've talked about for years this idea of login with Hive. I mean, that could be something across the internet, just like Twitter and Facebook these days, where login with Hive is a very, very powerful tool. And it seems like you're starting to try to address that by saying, hey, you need a Hive account to be a player, and whatever else is built on this, probably a lot of it's going to incorporate needing that Hive account.
Yeah, I mean, anything to do with Honeycomb Layer 2, you're going to need a Hive account. That's going to be your home base, basically. Yeah, log in with Hive. The Hive is the layer 1 of the whole Ragnarok game. That's where all the historical data is going to go. So, there'll be maybe we're going to hook up off-chain. Maybe we're thinking about doing light accounts, but I was thinking, the players are going to be hardcore anyway. So, just make them have to get a Hive account. I don't think it's that big of a deal. We're not, like I said, we're not looking for mass adoption. Maybe light account for the betting side, for people who want to onboard. Maybe they don't want a full Hive account, but they want to, maybe wager something. Because my big dream is to have cross-chain wagering, all these things, a DEX cross-chain, all these things. That's the dream. We're still building towards it, but yeah, right now, a lot's about to happen. I know it's been a year. Speak Network, proof of access should be done, testing. I'm going to know in 1 hour in this next meeting, Speak Network meeting. We have 2 every Sunday or every Tuesday. Once proof of access is done and you have the storage side done, the CDN, and you have truly censorship resistant off-chain video, massive. I think it's absolutely huge. No one's done it. Hive, yet again, first to do something else. From there, you can take that technology and apply it to anything. Servers, smart contracts, whatever you want, you're going to be able to tie this system into it. So it's basically like Speed Network is doing this, and then Ragnarok rides right in on it. Use the exact same technology. So Speed Network is Ragnarok being built, at least the hefty backend. And then the NFT side tying them to the tokens, which sounds like a big job. It actually isn't. Not when you have a really good engineer wizard like Disregard Fiat. It's not that big of a deal. So a lot of the heavy lifting is already going to be finished via the game being done, and then Speak Network's backend.
Yeah, that was one thing I've seen some of the criticism, and I just shake my head. I mean, first off, I don't think people distinguish 3Speak from Speak Network. They're actually 2 separate projects. The other thing is, I mean, the important thing about Speak Network, and people are saying, well, why the funding and nothing showing up? It's infrastructure, and infrastructure takes a while, number one, and number two, you need infrastructure before you can build shit on top of it. So without the infrastructure, you're not building your applications, your games, whatever. But one question that I had, and then I'll see what the Pinot Gallery has to say. technology changes so much, and you mentioned, your vision over a number of years, and you have long-term vision, and I know you have wherewithal with some of the technologies, maybe not, the ins and outs, the bits and bytes, but when people start talking about AR, VR, there I'll go there, John, metaverse and things of that nature. Where do you see that coming into play with gaming? Have you thought about that much?
The metaverse?
Well, AR, VR, some of these things that they're talking about that are being worked on, and moving it from flat screen to maybe 3D holograms. I mean, there's a bunch of things that people are working on.
I know. Disregard likes that. He has Deluxe. I had to move because my phone was actually about to die, so I charged it. That's not going to be my focus. I think it's going to be big in the future. I think everyone's just going to have like virtual avatars. I think it's much more important to make sure the layer one that all of that's going to live off of, because all that is metadata, which can be stored in Hive, and then you can use honeycomb technology to find a way to store the heavy data in a decentralized way. So I hope people are starting to understand this honeycomb technology is like a grinder. So what do you need done? I need decentralized servers. Okay, we can do that. We'll set up a DPoS system. You vote. We'll build the technology in which to run the servers, and then we'll build ways to reward them. That's the only real way to do it. Like it's very complicated and difficult to do it any other way. I've tried game theorying this over and over again. So I think that's going to be the future. You just need your own little, okay, well, this is for heavy storage. You got the Speak Network. Okay, this will be for gaming. That's why I think Ragnarok's going to be very powerful, because it's going to be difficult to replicate that decentralized backend if it becomes decentralized and there's enough people running nodes. Let's assume, for argument's sake, because there's two worlds, it could fail or it couldn't. Let's live in a world where it does. Hypothetically, there's people running infrastructure. They're being rewarded. You have several games built on top of that. How are you going to then compete? You fork it. Okay, where's your blood? Where's your life? I don't care if you fork. I want you to fork it. There's so many chains that we talk to when we're trying to get technology from. Their biggest thing is, where do you get validators? Even if it's profitable, they're finding a hard time getting validators. Most of the chains are validators that people brought. They brought their own validators. They paid for them. It's like they went and hired these people, and that's not how it has to be. Voluntary, obviously. So if you think of this as just basically a grinder, you're throwing things in. You have your patches of what you need for critical infrastructure, and Hive can incentivize it all with its feeless nature. And then you have the honeycomb technology, which is basically just giving you what you need to run. That's why it's incredibly cheap to run a Speak Network node. It's like $5-10 a month. It's nothing. That's how you have to get it. You have to niche this thing out and not be afraid to incentivize every layer of the niche.
Yeah, this is right up my alley in regards to talking about entrepreneurs, talking about building businesses, creating wealth on Hive. Wealth is a lot more than just money. It's business, it's commerce, it's users, it's having something, products or services, what people want. And I made a mention of it in my last article. Podping, that's one of the reasons we had Brian of London on. I mean, this guy is building value in Podping because it's a protocol that's going to be central, or is inserting itself right in the middle of the podcasting industry. And I look at Ragnarok and what you're doing here with Ragnarok and saying, here's something you can sink your teeth into. Here's commerce taking place right before our eyes. Yes, we need Speak Network or Honeycomb built out so Speak Network can do their thing, and then you ride right on top of the wave with that. But that's moving us into a commercial ecosystem that's adding commerce to Hive. And it's not just playing around with tokenomics. It's building a business. And, John and I talk about that quite frequently on here with different guests. It's like, what are you doing to build on Hive? And this is something I see as there could be a marketplace. Like you said, there's gambling, there's going to be card rentals, there's going to be a lot of different things tied to it, much in the same way Splinterlands is a business.
Yeah. I don't know. It's easy to go all in on Hive. I don't say all in financially, but just with your focus. That's why everything you'll see that I'm a part of is in some way going to benefit Hive, right? Instead of me keeping the treasury and then eventually dumping that HBD back into circulation. I want that HBD to be locked, and I want to eat up a lot of the supply. I want to make Hive deflationary. So people don't understand. You have to be very creative. You can't build everything into the layer one. But what you can do is brute force things. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say as a community, we make Ragnarok a very powerful game, and it's sucking up a lot of HBD to the point where it makes Hive deflationary. Well, that wasn't built into the layer one. That was a layer two community brute forcing the deflationary model onto Hive without Hive's permission. Don't need permission, but there was no one there to ordain or not ordain. You don't have to. People are always like, oh, sophisticated tokenomics. You got to get this and that. It has to be this and that. And it has to be deflationary or this number. It's like Hive, while nothing is perfect, there's a lot of eeriness and a lot of serendipity. I wouldn't touch it. Leave it alone. I don't know who or what is behind the magic, but we keep getting it right. Proof of brain, the data availability layer, not selling out and going layer one smart contract. There's so many things that got us here that I don't mind the inflation, and it's going down to be below 1% 1 year. That sounds great. And focus on layer two rewards. I think that's awesome. But when it comes to, well, why not have it deflationary or this or that, but add value? You can build things that literally black hole Hive and make it deflationary. If you're a large enough Hive holder, this is what's difficult, is having enough Hive because there's no pre-mine. So you have to earn this Hive, and usually, if you're lucky, you might get 0.5% or 1% of the whole supply, which is massive. It's a lot, but it's hard to get when you're buying it off the market, right? It's a lot of risk to take on when you're buying it in the market and powering it up and all of that. But when you take that kind of commitment, that's why Elon said something that was kind of interesting. He was looking for a CEO of Twitter, and he said, well, you have to put your life savings in. And I actually like that because it shows commitment, right? If you're not willing to put your life savings in, then you're not ride or die. So that's sort of how I feel with Hive. Obviously, I'm not saying put your fucking life savings in. I don't have my life savings in Hive. I have a lot in Hive, but I'd be okay if Hive went away, and you should be okay if Hive went away. Don't put yourself in a situation where you wouldn't be. But there's enough, obviously, for me personally, where there is a burn the boat mentality. And it's like, I believe in Hive a lot. I don't want to sell out to another chain that I don't believe in. I think Hive's ideals are correct. And I think it's a smart business model. I think censorship resistance is going to be valuable in the future. I think games with censorship resistance are going to be valuable in the future. And I think gamers are going to flock to incentive-based games that aren't owned by anyone, where 100% of the profits are recycled. I think that's the future. I think there's no stopping that, because that's where the market's ultimately going to go. If the market can go there, it will go there. And I'm just going there now. I'm not going to wait around, because I know if I don't, maybe 2-3 years from now, the market eventually gets there, because they'll keep undercutting themselves. Oh, only take 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, 0.5%, and then usually sticks around there. And then somebody will say, fuck it, no, all back to the community. And but then they'll usually keep some kind of pre-mine. So, just cut all of that out. Let's get to the Let's get to Z and go ahead and community owned, no pre-mine. Let's go there. See if they can compete with that.
Well, I think when we talk about Hive, and it's still, again, maybe it's that serendipity, that kind of something out there is kind of looking out for us. And actually, it was Dan Lammer who put it together. We just actually took it to another level. But when you look at the relationship between Hive and HBD, this is really a very intriguing situation. And I don't see it out there. It doesn't exist. Where, like you said, the inflationary to deflationary on the value capture token, the Hive. I don't want to say the S word, but the value capture represents the value of this ecosystem. But then you have the stable coin that is your transaction, like you're talking about. You're going to pay out your prize pool in HBD, and you're going to have people buy the in-game assets and pay for their entry fees and whatever they need to do with HBD. But because of that, if enough is pushed, if enough projects start to push this with HBD, you end up making Hive, the Hive coin, deflationary, because you have to convert. Somebody's going to have to, at some point, to make this grow. If there's enough demand, somebody's going to have to convert Hive to HBD to get enough HBD out there. But because Hive has the USD component to it, it gives us the elasticity with the money supply, because it's freely floating. So yes, if you convert a million Hive to HBD at $1, okay, you get a million HBD. But if a million Hives worth $100 million because it's $100 a piece, now you're talking a totally different scenario. But the elasticity is there where you can have the ebb and flow as the market, being the community, the business, the commerce, as the economy dictates, where it's not, a couple witnesses getting together and say, well, maybe we should, 4x the supply, or maybe we should reduce the supply 50%, which that's what the central banks try to do. They can't do, but they try to monkey around with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have a bandwidth token in Hive. It's pretty simple. Why would people want a bandwidth token in Hive or bandwidth coin in Hive? To get censorship resistance. So if you have censorship resistance, you now have a theme park that people want to buy a ticket into. It's something of value. And the only way to create that is by a community. No one individual can do that. So we've harnessed this element called censorship resistance in the digital era. In the digital world, we have that on Hive. And in order to do that, you need a little bit of Hive power resource credits. So now we have a value. We've produced value out of nothing. That's A. You have to have value out of nothing. From there, you attach that to an HBD. So people are going to hold this because they're like, well, this is my ticket. This is my land here. I'm building on top of this. I need to buy more. As you say, well, how does Splinterlands help Hive? Well, they were buying, lots and lots of Hive to power up for resource credits, and they were burning millions of Hive and buying accounts. That's how an application is going to help Hive, because Hive's actually valuable. You want to use it, they're willing to do that. Then you have something like HBD, and what I foresee with HBD, as long as it has any kind of nominal yield at all, people are just going to hold it. Apps are going to hold it. Games are going to hold it. Gamers are going to hold it. Hivers are going to hold it. Merchants are going to hold it. They're just going to hold it. Like instead of going out, I'm just going to collect my yield. Let's say I like to not live in the middle of the lane. I like to game theory if something works or it doesn't work. So let's game theory if this does work. If a lot of people start holding on HBD, and it becomes liquid, why would you cash it out? Merchants accept it. You get a yield on it. You have easy access to the Hive ecosystem. There's really no reason to take it out of your gambling wallet. There's really no reason for a merchant to immediately cash it out to US dollars. Crypto is going to become more and more user-friendly, more and more merchant-friendly, to the point where fiat's going to be like, ugh, really, fiat? It's like, just use fucking crypto. It's so much easier. That's going to be our life very soon, actually, especially as people in bankless areas start dominating the crypto scene. They're going to become a part of the world economy in a way they've never been able to. People aren't assuming this. Like, there's so many people in the world that just they couldn't contribute to the online force, and now they're going to be able to. So yeah, I think that you're going to have two sticky sides. You're going to have the landowners. You have your Three Speaks, you have your Splinterlands, you're going to have your Ragnaroks, you're going to have people who need resource credits to survive. And then you're going to have the HBD and the fast feeless. You have your social account, apps. Send it from a different, send it from any app, SNC on your phone, boom, boom, boom. Have payment apps, easy. Log in with Keychain, log in with Has, super easy. No need to cash out, sticky yield. That's how you get a coin to form a foundation of price, regardless if it's up or down. There's value there. And that's where I like to see, because like if you can't even say why something will have value, then you can't mess with it, at least not me. A lot of people getting these crazy, it's going to be $100 by this, or it's going to be, XRP to $500, and they couldn't tell you one damn reason why. Like, because banks will adopt this. Like, that's not a good reason. So you have to really break this down from a practical thing, as if no one, right? It's like, can we agree is censorship resistance valuable? I think we can agree on that. Okay. So having a fast feeless, stable payment mechanism is also valuable. Having yield on that makes it more valuable. And we can go on, but they're positive feedback loops for Hive, the whole thing. So
well, and
I see a lot of stickiness.
And I'm intrigued, and we use the B word in some conversations, which we won't say publicly, but I kind of named it in a post. But when you start to take that same concept of HBD, then throw it on your second layers, that your infrastructure that you're creating there, and you create a derivative there, and you lock up the HBD at the base layer, just like you're doing with Ragnarok. And you start to use some type of derivative as the transactional coin, Now you further insulate HBD, which, by the way, then further pulls more Hive into the deflationary mode, because you're going to need more HBD as these layer twos start to expand and as more applications and games tie into this. It just, like you said, you get that positive feedback loop from an economic standpoint that just becomes unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, we're just on Hive. We like to take a practical view, and what we're doing is making sure we can insulate ourselves and make a truly circular economy. People talk about circular economies. Bitcoin will be a circular economy. Just use Stripe or one of these centralized payment processors for your Lightning Network. Circular economy. It's like, no, that's not how it works. We're thinking, okay, no AWS, no centralized storage, no centralized computational power, no need to use any centralized entity at all for critical infrastructure. Sure, you might be an elected node and you might use some kind of centralized server, but you're one of 20. And if you're not going bare metal, which means having your own tower and your own hardware, then you're at risk of getting voted out. Every single crypto that I know of that's not Hive, and Hive has some pain points. We rely on centralized exchanges and a few other pain points. Obviously, we're fixing the storage of video and big data altogether. But so many people are already doomed because it's hard to fix something when it's broken. And a lot of these things are already broken because they have critical infrastructure that is deeply embedded into them. And there's no going, the convenience is too high. Hive, we've sort of been thrown out to the wolves, and we don't have that convenience. So we've been doing it from the ground up. So that's going to show. I think Ragnarok, when people actually play it, because Splinterlands, when you play it, it's a different feel. You know, it feels like I've heard people say this is a better user experience than any game I've played on Web3. Right? So you take that sort of ability to be much better than, I hate to say the competition, because you can't compare a data availability layer to a smart contract layer that's pretending to be a layer 1. But just in the gaming sphere, the layer 2 gaming sphere, I think that you have this chance for a great UI, great user experience on top of a very raw, decentralized mentality. And I don't know. I think hopefully locks up a lot of HBD and pays out really big prizes every year. That's the goal. And obviously that's going to help Hive.
So John, are you going to strive to be a top 10 Ragnaroker? I mean, does this game interest you?
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely awful at poker, but I like chess, and I love NFTs and I love collecting and I love building decks. I think that's like absolutely fascinating. That's been my Splinterlands experience. Not so much, just like you guys said, not the green candles. I care less. I mean, green candles are what everyone seems to go ballistic for, but for me, it's like I'm growing my deck. I'm growing this over time, and that's what Ragnarok looks like it's going to be doing. Is that's going to be the focus. So for me, it's a win. But Dan, I got a question for you, man, because the last time you were on here, you were on the hunt, and I'd like to see how this went for you. Mm-hmm. You were out saying, "I want to debate people on Twitter." How did that go, man? Did you get? I'm obviously following you, but did you get into any heated debates with anyone?
I want to see Dan and Michael Saylor go at it. I'd love to. I'd pay 100 HBD to watch that.
Yeah, I'd pay to debate Saylor. That'd be something. No, I don't know. See, people are pretty disingenuous. They'll say something like, blanket statement. Hive is centralized, and then you sort of call them out, like Matt did that. I guess the NFT guy, and then he just says, you've said enough, and it runs away and blocks you or something. So no, there's not been any. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know. It's maybe I just have like the ugliest face or the worst voice, but for some reason nobody will debate me, but they make these drastic claims, and I don't. I'm not trying to poke anybody. I'm not trying to like cause drama, but like if you're going to be wrong and you're just going to be openly wrong and annoyingly wrong, and I keep seeing you being wrong and I keep getting annoyed, I'm going to have to call you out. And if you don't want to like talk to somebody who has a different point of view, right, that's what we have, a bunch of squawking, man. It's sad, but yeah, just give me one. I feel like Rocky. I just need like one fight to put myself on the map and to help spread awareness for Hive, because I'm not saying I know a lot, but what I do know is a lot of these people are fronting. They're bullshit. Like, we can sift through it and we can talk about it. And when they actually talk with somebody who's, I would think, genuine, there's gonna be a lot of questions they can't answer about the Lightning Network, any Ethereum guys. I don't even have to. I don't have to. That'd be like piranha time. I would love a Lightning Network debate, though. That's for sure.
Oh, dude, yeah, like Taz said, that's pay-per-view material there, man. So keep us in the loop if you go head to head with any of these guys, because
my gloves always stay on. I sleep with them on, so I'm ready if anybody wants a friendly debate.
I like it.
I even put $10,000 up. I made a tweet. I offered $10,000. Heads up battle. No one took it. So.
Wow.
I don't know what else to do then.
Do you think? There's some type of tribalism in this? I mean, I own some Ethereum. I was high on Ethereum. After listening to you for 3 years, I feel I understand Ethereum better. I'm not down on Ethereum. I still hold my Ethereum. I have no intention of selling it. I think the green candles will happen for Ethereum, but I'm not going to defend Ethereum because I see the problems, especially when they flip from proof of work to proof of stake. It's pretty glaring. And, I agree with you. It's going to be a banker chain, a Wall Street chain. I mean, that's where it's going to be. But do you think the problem people have is with their tribalism? I mean, are we so ingrained in cryptocurrency with their tribalism that, we understand the Bitcoin maxis, and I really understand their lack of understanding of money. Ethereum are a little better on that part, but they have their tribalism. Is that the root of our problems, you think?
I think a lot of it's fear-based. People want to feel comfortable, and they don't want, like, once you kind of figure something out, you want it to be done, and you don't want to expand. Like, no, Bitcoin's good. We don't need to learn anything else. A lot of people are disingenuous because they have bias, because they either hold large positions or build businesses on top of. It's hard to get someone to prove to admit that they're wrong. I'm not that. I love being wrong because that's the only way to be right. You expand your worldview. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people, I'm not. It's very strange. I get eerie feelings. It's like I always said, I'm either fucking a very big idiot or something is very wrong.
You're a genius.
Something, I don't even say a genius, man, because I don't think, it took me a long time to figure this out. There's way smarter people out there that found it out quicker. But there's either something really, I think there's something really wrong going on. I think people are just so focused on the money or bought off. There's no money, man. It's like fast, like they promote off topic, eat carbohydrates for breakfast. It's like the worst thing you could do. You get diabetes. It's like, fasting is very healthy for you. You don't do it all the time, but it's healthy. But there's no money in fasting. Where's the money in don't eat? Right? So you don't hear about it. You hear about McDonald's breakfast and all this crap and the food pyramid, which is like the food pyramid from hell. Then you go eat your Whoppers and shit and your Big Macs and your carbohydrates and all this and your breads and grains. It's the same thing, man. I don't know. It's very strange in this crypto world where there's no money in a feeless blockchain for the middle people. Right? What can Chase Bank offer us?
Nothing.
What can Chase Bank offer Ethereans? A feeless gas experience, right? Don't pay gas fees. What could Chase Bank offer Bitcoiners? Free fast lightning. Strike or whatever. Jack Mahler's. No disrespect. Jack's. Jack Mahler, the big light network guy, not the Twitter guy. Strike or whatever. He has a centralized business. That's Chase, as far as I'm concerned. Same rules, just a different coat. They'll be bought out by somebody anyway. Like he's going to stay altruistic. Like he can stay altruistic. It's cute to say, I'm going to stop the train and you're on the tracks. You're like, no, you're not. I'm going to stop it. It's cool to say that, but we all know what's going to happen. So he can say, oh, I'm not going to sell out. You're on train tracks, bud. You're on you don't control the environment you're in. So your words are meaningless. So you can't listen to people like that. And a lot of these people sound like they know what they're talking about. People say, I sound like I know what we're talking about. Anyone can sound like they know what they're talking about. That's why it's critical to break this down. When I do it and it should make sense. It's like, I'm not trying to sell you smoke and mirrors. It's like, this is a reason. There's no money in being on a feeless chain, a middle person. There's no layer 2 convenience monsters. There's just not, they don't exist. That's why exchanges hate us. That's why you don't see these big VCs. That's why you don't see the open seas and all this crap. I think Splitlands just got on open sea. What the fuck? That's like the best game in blockchain. They had all kinds of doo-doo picks and crazy shit on there. They're on high fee chains. And what does OpenSea do? They help with the gas fees and all of that. Just KYC, give us a little, just a tip, as they like to say. Just give us your name, your data, where you live, credit card, photo ID, front, back. And then, you got Coinbase selling your information to the IRS and whatnot. And it gets to be shady because that information is very powerful. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who are smart that are being disingenuous, and they sound like they know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of people who don't do research, and they just say, "I'll listen to Vitalik." You can't be fast and decentralized. Vitalik said so. If you're fast, you must be centralized. I was like, you have to be fast to be decentralized. It's weird that you say that, Vitalik, with such conviction. Like it's like a 10 commandments of crypto or the 3 commandments of crypto. He made some pyramid. It's a pyramid from hell. That's the biggest misinformation. That's crazy, man. So a lot of people, they listen to these people, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but there's a lot of people who know how to lift weights that never lifted a weight. And I look at these people like that. These people have pre-mines, they have VC funding, they have centralized money. They've never lived in the wild a day in their life, but they'll read a book about the jungle all day, and they'll tell you how the jungle works, but they haven't lived there a day in their life. And it's obvious to people who've lived in the jungle that this motherfucker right here hasn't lived. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because if you did, there's bed bugs, and you don't lie that way, or you don't walk down that path. You know not to go there. Where's the guy? He's talking malarkey. And that's how I feel when I listen to these people. Talking about you have to be slow to be decentralized. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard for a layer 1. Doesn't even make sense. You can say, because the nodes are small. But it costs how much ETH to be a validator? Like what?
Like $30,000.
What's happening? Where's the logic? Am I like I said, I'm crazy? I don't know. But there's no logic in a lot of these things. But people like to listen to them, so it is what it is.
I don't know. Maybe I've been listening to you for too long, Dan, but I feel the same way. It's like we see something that nobody else is seeing out there. It's like, hello, are we looking at the same landscape here? But maybe we're with our strawberry colored glasses. I don't know.
When you said that, it reminded me of something before we head out of here, man, because this hit me, man. And this is I'm a big Chris Rock fan, like all of his old comedies. And one of the things he said is that, they're never going to heal certain diseases because the money's not in the cure. The money's in the treatment. And that's exactly what you hit right there. There's no money on Hive for the middleman. There's none because it's truly decentralized. It's feeless. We own it.
It eliminates everything. Web Dorsey's Web 5 from Jack. Everything gets completely annihilated. All their business models go to hell. We're going to struggle, but we will struggle uphill. We will keep climbing. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. Dude, awesome stuff as always, man. Appreciate you coming by and, everything you do for everyone here on the blockchain. And looking forward to Ragnarok. But I guess just before we go, I'll put the link in for your Discord. So if people want to do the bounty stuff that you're going to do with Ragnarok this week, I'll put it in the post so people can check it out. But any timeline for that, or are you just doing it this week, you said?
No, it's going to be Thursday. Thursday, Bug Bounties will open. Get in there early if you want to start, getting comfortable with the code base and all that. It's going to be all open source. You can fork it. You can launch Ragnarok before we launch Ragnarok. Go for it, So that's where I'm at right now. Thursday, if you want to get in right now, play it. You can play the game. Tell me how much it sucks or tell me what you like about it. We're already actively implementing feedback from the community. So we've already got people say, hey, this, that. So it's already helping. So if you want to get in and help shape the game, we're waiting. We want a lot of people in here giving us lots of ideas because I always thought it'd be cool to try to shape a game from the beginning. So
perfect. Task, we're good.
Hey man, that was incredible. And next week we get Starkers on talking about Speak Network. So evidently there's a conference call. Maybe Matt will have some interesting tidbits that he'll drop to us next week. Or maybe he'll still be arguing on Twitter right up to that point. I don't know, but
If he's not out hunting crocodiles, then I think
I think he's setting up. Didn't he move to Grizzly Bears now?
Yeah, he's like poaching grizzly bears to get the roaming Speak Network nodes. You got to have all the coverage.
That's an inside joke, John. But yeah. So, and also another bit of housekeeping. On Friday, we will be 2 hours earlier than usual. We will be 11 Eastern time because I got to head out of town for the Christmas weekend. So appreciate everybody being flexible on that.
There you go. Duke, Dan, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. And see you guys on Friday.
Ciao.
Later.